So recently I heard some, would you say, unsettling news. Sony, the owners of PlayStation, are apparently in the talks to acquire the parent company behind Fromsoftware. Yeah, the pioneers of the Souls genre. Now you're probably asking, how is Sony gonna afford Bandai Namco? But this assumption comes from a general lack of understanding of parent company and publisher. Bandai Namco doesn't own Fromsoftware, they just publish their games. The actual owner of the majority of the studio is a Japanese corp called Kadokawa. This is the company that Sony is seeking to acquire, and since they own FromSoft, if the deal goes through, then it would now become one of Sony's many studios. Of course, Kadokawa is more than just FromSoft, but I'd imagine the acquisition of FromSoftware is definitely something Sony has taken into account with this potential purchase. Now, hearing this, alarm bells are probably going off in your head. And yes, that would be the appropriate reaction. Not only do I see potential issues that could arise with this acquisition, but I'd also like to talk about this broader issue within the video game industry. That being said, I'm the Evernight Writer, like and subscribe if willing, and let's get into it. Now, I should note that this acquisition isn't a guaranteed thing. They're in the talks, at least at the time of recording this. That being said, I think it's worthwhile to look at the possible ramifications of such an acquisition on Fromsoftware. First, let's look at the best case scenario. Well, it would be that this deal never goes through, but let's say it does. In that case, the ideal would be for things to continue the way they're currently going right now. Despite Kadokawa owning the majority of Fromsoftware, they don't seem to really grip them with an iron fist or tell them what to do. I mean, think about it. Most corpos would have preferred FromSoft work on Dark Souls 4 instead of Sekiro, yet the studio had the freedom to go their own direction. Now, I don't work there, so I don't know this for sure, but that's just how it seems. In a perfect world, Sony would just leave FromSoft to their own vices and trust them to push out hits. That's what Kadokawa's been doing, and it's worked out pretty well for them. Now, while the best possible outcome is a possibility, I'd prep for things to not go so smoothly. Sony's recent history with acquired studios hasn't been so hot. Case in point, Concord. I don't think I really need to go down this rabbit hole, but basically Sony acquired Firewalk Studios that was working on a hero shooter, something like Overwatch. And an estimated $200 to $400 million later, the game came out and it flopped. Yeah, also Firewall got shut down. So there's that. Now, after that, you'd think Sony would slow down with this live service push, but no. They're still full sending it, which is a scary thought when a potential FromSoftware acquisition comes into the conversation. I think I speak for all of us when I say I don't want a live service version of Elden Ring. Imagine buying runes from a microtransaction store, or hell, let's sell them sets of armor. Only $6 to get the Dark Moon Greatsword, boys. While there's a universe out there where FromSoft is making live service games and they're absolute bangers, generally, when a studio that traditionally makes single-player games is given a live service project, it often doesn't go well. Just ask Arcane Austin. That's not to say a co-op Souls game wouldn't be cool. I mean, one of the most popular Elden Ring mods is the Seamless Co-op mod. It's possible that FromSoftware might learn from this and incorporate cooperative play beyond just Invasion. This naturally brings up another potential issue with the Sony acquisition. Earlier this year, there was a bit of an issue where Sony was requiring players of their then popular live service game Helldivers 2 to create a PSN account to play. Now, this was a problem because, for one, PC players hate signing up for shit, but even worse, there are quite a few countries where PSN isn't even available, but copies of Helldivers 2 were sold there. Eventually, Sony had to walk this back, but their future releases won't be going to those countries. Now, it's probably safe to say if FromSoftware's next game involves any form of cooperative play, and it's releasing under a Sony acquisition, then players will need to sign into a PSN account. This also means that those countries that don't have PSN won't get the next game. But of course, none of this will matter if the game is exclusive to the PlayStation platform. In all past instances where Sony worked with FromSoftware, the resulting game ended up being an exclusive to Sony's platform, i.e. Demon's Souls and Bloodborne. Then the idea that FromSoft's next game will be locked to any platform scares me. Now, if you're already a PlayStation user, then this probably doesn't concern you, but if you are literally anyone else, you're probably not going to be fond of this. Even if it's a timed exclusive, it's still a massive L in my eyes. Now, please understand that this is all purely speculation. There's no guarantee this deal will go through or that any of these negative effects will come to pass. But when looking at this, I think it leads to a deeper conversation about the state of this industry, a state where talented studios are getting gobbled up by large corporations. On one hand, it's good. These devs can get more resources and can work on larger, more ambitious projects. But we've seen smaller studios get dissolved into larger ones to work with their own ongoing games. The small studio proletariat often comes to mind that shut down their own game Spellbreak as they got dissolved into a larger studio. I think it was Blizzard to work on World of Warcraft, but I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. There's also the acquisitions of studios that might have excelled at making single-player games that are now forced to make live service slop. And when these games aren't successful, there's the potential that these studios will get shut down, like Firewalk or Arcane. A matter of fact, your studio might just get shut down even for making good games, like Tango Gameworks, the people behind Hi-Fi Rush. It honestly must really suck for the developers. None of them want to make a bad game, but they're sometimes forced into making games they don't want to make or have no experience in, and when said game fails, they lose their jobs. Like most industries, the gaming industry is run by Corpos. Most of these suits have never played a game in their lives, and they spend all day looking at spreadsheets instead of actually learning what people want. This isn't only ruining games, it's ruining lives. It's why I get a little worried when I see a large corp like Sony making moves to acquire Fromsoftware's parent company. There's no guarantee that they will be given the same freedom that Kadokawa gave them. But only time will tell. Anyways, like and subscribe, I'm the Overnight Writer, and have a beautiful night.